We left off yesterday, and we're going to talk about missing sides. All right. Today we're going to really talk about what I like to call tall over shadow. I really like it. It's really simple. I love working with proportions, so I'm glad I'm doing these notes today. So we're going to start off with our first question. It says Billy is 5 feet and casts a shadow that is 10 feet long. If the shadow is 20 feet, how long? If the tree is 20 feet tall, how long will its shadow be? So we're assuming on all these questions that Billy and the tree are similar. They're going at the same rate. And if that's the case, then what we could do is set up a proportion. And the label I like to use is tall over shadow. So I'm going to write down, there we go. Let's see what color I'm going to use. I like using this color a lot. I'm going to write down tall over shadow is equal to tall over shadow. And on each one of the fractions, I'm going to talk about a different, I'm going to talk about the two objects or person or tree that's being used. So, for instance, on our fraction to the left, I'm going to talk about Billy. And our fraction to the right, I'm going to talk about the tree. So I'm going to break down each scenario. It says Billy is 5 feet tall and casts a shadow that's 10 feet long. So on the tall spot, I'm going to put 5 because Billy's 5 feet tall. And now in the shadow spot or our denominator, I'm going to write down 10 because Billy casts a 10-foot shadow. And now our fraction to the right, I'm going to talk about the tree. All right, our tree is 20 feet tall, so I'm going to put it on the numerator spot. But we don't know how long the tree's shadow is. So in that section, I'm going to put down an X. All right, so now I can do one of two things. I go and cross multiply and divide, or I can simplify. I always like simplifying. So I know 5 can go into 10 twice. So 5 becomes a 1 and 10 becomes a 2. And now I'm going to cross multiply. I'm going to multiply 2 and 20, which gets me 40. And then I'm going to multiply 1 times x, which just gets me x. So now I know that the shadow is going to end up being 40 feet tall or 40 feet long. All right, so it's pretty simple. We're just working with proportions here. So same thing you did yesterday, so it's not too bad. Number 2 says Jamar casts a shadow that is 9 feet long. The light post is 24 feet tall and casts a shadow that's 36 feet long. How tall is Jamar? All right, so over here we're going to do tall over shadow is equal to tall over shadow as well. So I'm going to write down tall over shadow is equal to tall over shadow. All right, on our fraction to the left, I'm going to talk about Jamar, and then our fraction to the right, I'm going to talk about the light post. So it says Jamar casts a shadow that's 9 feet tall. So on the shadow section, I'm going to write down 9. All right, I'm not going to put that in the tall section because Jamar is 9 feet tall. He'll probably be making like millions of dollars, like playing in the NBA somewhere, even if he was super sorry. If you're 9 feet tall, you better make the league. All right, and then our fraction to the right, I'm going to talk about the light post. The light post is 24 feet tall, so 24 is going to be on the top, and casts a shadow that's 36 feet long. All right, the unknown here is how tall Jamar is. So we're going to put a variable there. I'm going to put X. You can put whatever letter you want. All right, so we can simplify first if we want to. I know that 24 and 36 are both divisible by 12. All right, 24 divided by 12 is going to get me, what's that, 2. And then 36 divided by 12 is going to get me 3. All right, so now I'm going to cross multiply. I'm going to multiply 2 times 9, and I'm going to multiply 3 times x. 2 times 9 is going to get me 18, and then 3 times x is going to get me 3x. All right, so now all that's left for me to do is to divide by 3 on both sides. I'm dividing by 3 on both sides because 3 and x are multiplying, and the inverse operation is division. And what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So 18 divided by 3 is going to get me 6. And now I'm left with 1x, or just x. So now I know that Jamar is 6 feet tall. I'm jealous of Jamar because I'm 5'11", and I didn't get that 1 inch. I think that was just God's way of humbling me a little bit, because I think I'm the greatest at everything, and the one thing I didn't get is to be 6 foot. So darn you, Jamar. I wish I had that extra inch. But moving on, number 3, and our last problem. It says a light pole is 30 feet tall and cast a 50-foot shadow. If Tyrod is 6 feet tall, there goes another 6-foot person. If Tyrod is 6 foot tall, how long is his shadow? All right, so we're going to do tall over shadow again. So tall over shadow is equal to tall over shadow. All right, on the first fraction, I'm going to talk about, let's talk about Tyrod. And on the second fraction, I'm going to talk about the light pole. So the information we have on Tyrod is 6 feet tall. So I'm going to put that on the numerator spot. And we don't know how long his shadow is. So we're going to put a variable down there for the shadow. Now for the light post, it says the light pole is 30 feet tall, and it casts a 50-foot shadow. All right, so now we could simplify, or we could cross multiply and divide. For those of you that don't like simplifying, you could do that. I like working with smaller numbers because I feel I make less mistakes that way. So I know 30 and 50 are both divisible by 10, so I'm going to cross out those zeros there, and we're left with 3/5. Now I'm going to go ahead and multiply 3 times x. 3 times x is going to give me 3x. And then I'm going to multiply 6 times 5. 6 times 5 is going to get me 30. All right, so now we have 3x is equal to 30. I'm going to draw my fence. And 3 and x are multiplying. The inverse operation of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide by 3 on both sides. 3 divided by 3 gives me 1. So I'm left with 1x, which is the same thing as x. And 30 divided by 3 is going to get me 10. So now I know that Tyrod's shadow is 10 feet long. All right, so pretty simple. Again, we're just setting up proportions. I use tall over shadow is equal to tall over shadow. The big thing here is to make sure that you put the correct value in the correct spot. That way you end up with the right answer. You could do shadow over height or shadow over tall, or however you want to label it. Just make sure that those two labels are matching. All right, if you have any questions, feel free to get